Permanent positive events are related to living your life according to your own personal values, achieving goals that are important to you, and developing lasting and loving interpersonal relationships. Long-term accumulated positive emotions that build a life worth living require 8 steps. Just like in our short-term accumulation of positive emotions, for the long term, you have to avoid avoiding. If you avoid doing what is needed to build a life worth living, you won't build a life worth living. Factors that can interfere include not knowing what you want in life, moodiness, emotional overload, or an inability to accept that life is often unfair. Although these factors may be very understandable reasons for avoiding the hard work necessary to build a life worth living, getting to work on the task is what is needed. Each of us has to build our own life worth living. Identifying the values that are important to you requires you understanding what values are. Your values are things that really matter to you. They're important to you and what you cherish about life. They are your highest priorities in life. Values are not goals. They are not outcomes, and they're not in the future. They are a way of living. They are about engaging activities and activities that you value. Keeping priorities straight when you make life decisions, both big and little, is essential. Values are like a pathless path. They give your life direction and meaning, but they do not have an endpoint. They are guideposts that remind you of what you care about. Values may tell you that a specific goal is important to work on, but achieving the goal does not mean you can forget your values. You can work on relationships, achieving and having integrity, but there's no date in the future when you can say, I have achieved that value and don't need to keep it a priority anymore. Values change over time and often are not simple to figure out. Major life events can affect your values. Values can also be in conflict with each other. Figuring out which values are most important at any given point in your life can be an important task. Sometimes you want to have a good time, have fun, and seek things that give you pleasure as a value, especially when you're young and you have few obligations. If you're married and you have a family, however, staying home and spending time with your family may be far more important than having a good time and getting out into the world. Here are some questions to ask yourself when determining your values. What in life are your highest priorities? What really matters to you? What is the direction you want your life to go? What is in your life now that you do not want to lose? What things of value are not in your life right now? Simply affirming your own values in this way has been found to buffer psychological stress responses. When aiming to determine your list of values, you might feel a bit distressed. You may become aware of how far in your life you are from those values. Start with 1 or 2 important values that are already present in your life. These might include things that you already have, such as having people to do things with, or a secure and safe home. They may also be things that you are already doing in your life, such as working towards a goal or aiming to treat people with equality. It's a lot of thought to figure out which values are most important. This task is very personal. An aspect of determining your values is deciding whether the values you are expressing are really your own. Often, you make other people's values your own without really thinking about it. Sometimes you speak and act as if you value things that in fact you don't. You value others' opinion of you and live according to their values to get their approval. Most of us do this some of the time. Some of us do this all of the time. It can be difficult to live according to your own values when you really want to fit in with others. I've referred to this as leaving yourself. Not leaving yourself is especially difficult if your group that you want to fit in with has values different than your own. In order for your life to be worth living, you have to live according to your own values. If you highly value having others love and approve of you, you may also have to live at least some of your life according to others' values. I encourage you to pause if this is the case and ask yourself if that feels like giving up your self-respect. There's a bit of a tightrope to balance on here. Remember, changing your life may be necessary to accumulate positive emotions. This may be an example of a place where this needs to be done if the community you want to be a part of and accepted by does not share your values. Perhaps it's time to find a new community. In trying to determine whether a value is your own or another's, ask yourself, if you could act according to a particular value and could keep it from others, would you do it? If being an educated person is important to you, but you cannot tell anyone that you are taking courses to further your education, would you still take the courses? If anything were possible, what direction would you want your life to go? This has nothing to do with what you think is realistic or what you think you deserve. Building a life worth living takes identifying one value to work on now. Most people have many important values. Focusing on just one that is your highest priority is supportive of accumulating long-term positive emotions. The task can feel too big and overwhelming if you try to work on all of your values at once. Pick a value that you actually want to work on at this time in your life. Look at what is in your life now that you really value and at what valuable things are not in your life right now. Questions to ask yourself to determine which value you want to work on now are, which value is your highest priority? What area does your current life not match your values? Is your behavior in alignment with your values? Are there things you really value that are not in your life? Are you doing things that you value? Are you doing things that go against your core values? Where do you need to make changes in your life so that it will match what is important to you? Once you've chosen the value you want to work on, identify a few goals related to this value. Goals are something specific that you can achieve. Once you achieve a goal, you don't have to work at it anymore. If you value contributing to a larger community, you can do that all of your life. Goals that could get you closer to that value would be to get a part-time volunteering job or to donate time to a soup kitchen. Once you have done these things, you have achieved those goals. Goals need to be specified and measured. There are great questions to ask yourself when determining what goals will get you closer to living your values. What is one thing you could accomplish that would be aligned with the value you are working on? What is one behavior to change to be in alignment with your values? Are there major roadblocks that must be overcome before you can accomplish your goal? If your value is to have a steady income that meets your basic needs, a goal might be to get a job. If your value is to have close and satisfying relationships with others, a goal might be to make one new friend. If you value being healthy, one goal might be to figure out what kind of exercise you really enjoy. Remember possibility in setting goals. You want your goals to be reasonable. There's no point in setting goals that cannot be achieved. If the value is to compete successfully with others, setting a goal to be a national tennis champion in 2 years when you have never had a tennis lesson is unrealistic. It's also important to avoid goals that will reduce your quality of life if you meet them. If you value to make sacrifices for others, giving away your college education savings to a friend who wants a new car is likely to cause long-term harm that is greater than the benefits of solving the friend's temporary transportation needs. Just like we distilled the most important values, you want to distill your goals to one goal to work on now. Put your goals in order of importance and reasonableness. You can't work on every goal related to a value at once. It can be helpful to organize goals in a list with the most important and realistically possible goal at the top. This enables you to set your priorities so that you know which goal to work on first. After you've made this list, select one goal that is reasonable and important to work on now. Next, identify small actions towards your goal. Ask yourself what you have to accomplish to get to the goal. Break the task into small steps you can take now. Take one action step now. If you value being part of a group, the possible goals might be to reconnect with old friends, get a more social job, or join a club. One goal to work on right now might be to join that club. If you are figuring out a few action steps for moving towards a goal, you could look for clubs on Facebook. You could go to a bookstore by your home and ask about book groups or join an online interactive community. If you choose the last step, you need to first turn on your computer.